What an honor and a blessing for me to be with you all here. I want to thank my great friend Ndidi for her friendship and her partnership in the broader faith-driven entrepreneur movement, and being a great inspiration and encouragement to me as she has taught me her love for Africa and has helped me to develop my own growing love for Africa. I must say that I felt a little envious because the last speaker and dancer came up and said, "Clap if you're African." And I wanted to clap because I feel that God has put Africa on my heart, and yet I felt that maybe I'd lose some integrity with you all if I did. But I have traveled to more than 50 countries talking about faith-driven entrepreneurship and business in my career, and I have never had a better welcome than Nigeria. I've never been more encouraged by the dynamism in the marketplace, or more excited about the potential of a nation than Nigeria. And that's just incredibly encouraging for me, because this is my life's work. And when you come alongside people and you meet people like Ndidi and Claire and Femi and the team, it just is an incredible jolt. It's so much better than coffee. I'm so grateful. So I want to talk to you about something that is likely on your hearts, which is scaling an organization. What does it look like to scale, to grow an organization? You're involved in entrepreneurship and you want to grow. Well, what's the secret to that growth? It's money, right? Capital, financial capital. But is it? I'm 52 years old now, and I've spent a life as an entrepreneur, and I've gotten a chance to learn a lot of lessons along the way. Maybe the biggest lesson is endeavoring to understand the difference between being faithful and willful. So much of my entrepreneurial career has been characterized by being willful rather than faithful. Probably none more so than in the field of looking to raise money. So if you want to get a presentation on how to effectively raise capital, one could possibly say that I'm the wrong speaker. And yet, I think that the lessons that God has taught me about raising capital and growing an organization will apply to you. And yes, I do believe that if you apply these lessons, and if you learn from the mistakes that I've made, you will stand in a better chance to be able to raise the capital, the financial capital, that will help propel your growth. There's a passage in the New Testament that really resonates with me a lot, and I won't go into all the details of it, and I'm paraphrasing here a bit, but it talks about somebody wanting to find happiness and trying to find comfort in all the different things, in clothes and shelter and provision. And Matthew 6:33 says, "Aim first for the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well." There's an eye trick that is kind of an optical illusion that I remember as a kid growing up, and what would happen is if you kind of trained your eyes and you looked beyond the image right in front of you, then the image right in front of you would come clearer. And I've always been fascinated by that dynamic. And I think that it really applies for raising financial capital. Okay, what do I mean by that? I think that there's something else that we need to aim our eyes toward, and all the other things that will provide success in our enterprise, to include financial capital, will come as well if we keep the right focus. So what does that look like? Well, I want to couch that secret to scaling, if you will, into some lessons that I've learned along the way from a good friend of mine named Kurt Kylehacker, who's the chairman of the board of an entrepreneurial accelerator in America called Praxis. And he says that you as an entrepreneur have 3 jobs. Just 3 jobs. 1 is to steward the mission and vision of your organization. 2 is to resource it. But 3, and this is the big one, 3 is get the right people on the bus. So how do you do that? How do you get the right people on the bus? Well, you get the right people on the bus by doing some things and avoiding doing some things. The first one, in order to be able to get the right people on the bus, is to be able to articulate your why and invite people into something that is bigger than you and bigger than them. We all want to be a part of something that is much bigger than the manufacture and distribution of widgets. There is a great TED.com talk, and I think about TED because of Ndidi's talks there, great TED talk by a guy named Simon Sinek that talks about the power of why and articulating the why. He does it through the lens of Steve Jobs and the Wright brothers. If you haven't seen that, please look at it. It's just incredibly powerful. And it talks about the connection or the lack of connection between the limbic section of our brains and the verbal section of our brains. When we can talk to somebody about why we do what we do, that resonates with them because it's about something bigger than themselves, bigger than you, it resonates with them at the soul level. When you understand that we have an opportunity, an invitation from God, regardless of your faith foundation, when you look at creation all around us, the majesty of a God that worked 6 out of 7 days draws us in. When we understand our call to create and the invitation that we have to make the world a better place, and we can articulate why we do what we do, that will be winsome to all of our stakeholders, none more so than those people that we want to have on the bus. Those are the people that share this bigger purpose with us. There are employees, there are volunteers, and yes, eventually they will be our funders. But how do we get the right people on the bus? I want to go through that one more time because I love simple frameworks. If you're an entrepreneur, the 3 things for you to do: steward the mission and vision of the company, the enterprise; 2, resource it; and 3, get the right people on the bus. So one of the things I think is really important about getting the right people on the bus is what it connotes. It means you need the right people on your team because you can't do it all on your own. Notice those are the 3 things for you to do, not the other 97 things that you're doing right now. That was a lesson I learned at Bandwidth in the early days. You see, when we were starting Bandwidth, which through the grace of God has become a really successful telecommunications company and spawned out Republic Wireless and Relay Go in addition to Bandwidth, at the beginning, I was trying to do it all myself, along with my business partner, David. You know, if you're a parent with young children, you understand the concept of letting them go and running when they're like 2 years old. And you're so worried because if they fall, they're going to skin their knee, right? But when you're an entrepreneur and you hand an assignment to one of your fellow employees, they're not skinning their knee when they fail. They're skinning your knee. And that really hurts. That took me a long time to really understand how I needed to persevere through that discomfort and enable and empower the people that we got on the bus. When I had to do everything under my own power, again, I tended to be willful rather than faithful. When I did that all, people would show up to work, ask me what to do, I'd tell them, they'd do it. But it wasn't until I realized that we're hitting this glass ceiling when I was trying to do it all by myself, and not just focusing on those 3 things, and allowing other people to make those mistakes, that all of a sudden they had ownership. Because we want them to have ownership in the why, in the mission, in the vision, and have it to be their own. That's how your employees, your team members, those you bring on the bus, will be thinking about the problems that you're trying to solve in the shower, on the way into work. When that happened, as we started allowing our lieutenants to start making some mistakes, they got empowered. They did make some mistakes, but then they owned it because they owned the mission and the vision. Well, how does that happen? Well, part of your role, back to number 1, stewarding the mission and vision, is to talk about what is the mission and vision, to talk about our why. I think of it a lot like maybe even a military analogy. You're the leader of a battalion, and you need to be able to articulate where you are going and what it will be like when you obtain the objective. So think of yourselves as going ahead and taking that hill, okay? That hill is what the world looks like when you have accomplished your mission or vision, or you have had success along the way to solving the societal problem that you see. Your job as a leader is to articulate that vision in such a way that they can feel it, that they can taste it. And then what you do is you deputize those in your staff and say, listen, you're responsible for providing the provisions for us to get up there. You're responsible for providing security, et cetera, so everybody understands the role that they play, and you give them enough latitude. Once you've articulated what it looks like, tastes like, feels like to achieve it, and then it is theirs. That's remarkably important. So I want to give you another framework to think about how to go ahead and equip the people on the bus so that you have an operational excellence and a diverse body of people who own the mission and vision, so that the funders that come into your organization will see a degree of scale and success and people bought in. And when that happens, you'll find all the resources you need to grow. So what's another framework that I like to use? Well, I like to think that business, and even for those of you running a social enterprise, there is a business aspect to what we are doing. The business is as simple as this. It's about acquiring customers and retaining them. One of the things that's missed on a lot of business school students, social entrepreneurs, etc., is the fact that it is 5 times more cost effective. This is out of MIT. 5 times more cost effective to keep a customer on board that was otherwise going to leave than going to buy a new one. An incredibly important concept. Lots of reasons for that. One of the things that happens is that when we have a loyal base of customers that we have endeavored to delight and to serve as a part of our mission, when we have them, they tend to be our stickiest customer, our biggest cheerleader, and as a result, the greatest source of referrals. And as those of us as we know with business, the best referrals are not only those that come in and stay along, but they are also free, right? Because they come in from somebody else. For businesses, it's just an incredibly important concept. Okay, so how do you go ahead and how do you do acquiring a customer well and retaining them well? Well, the thing that makes business even simpler than those two things is the importance of being able to retain our employees. How do we get the people, collect the people around us in a way that they want to help us to achieve our mission? How does that happen? Well, some of it I already addressed, right? It's being able to articulate the why and be able to paint the picture of what it looks like when we've achieved success. You see, when we end up losing our employees, we lose not only the ability to bring on customers well, because of the employees that we train to be good at acquiring customers or to serve them, but we've lost the collective mojo, if you will, the collective creative spirit to go out there and solve problems for our customers. And so how do we keep those people? What does it look like for us to keep those people on the bus? Well, I think that it's this focus on being able to love our neighbor and those around us. And so one thing I want to give to you is, and then I'm going to just close out here in a second, is that one of the things I've missed in the early days is I went ahead and had so much of a focus on trying to go ahead and raise money. And just to give a little clarity on that, in the early days of our enterprise, David and I thought that we had some success to reinforce, so we went out there and tried to raise money. And we thought that raising capital would be the solution for all of our problems. Over the course of 2 years, we went 0 for 40 in venture capital raises. Incredibly long, hard slog. When I look back on it, and think about what it would have looked like instead to have spent that time honing our business model and inviting people into our mission that could help us to achieve it, and thinking about personal development, working with our customers and our partners, we were being willful in thinking that money was the only thing that stood in the way of us being able to achieve success. We had a fund called Sovereign's Capital. Sovereign's Capital is meant to invest in faith-driven entrepreneurs in Southeast Asia and in America, and it took us 2.5 years to raise $12 million. We were so focused on fundraising that we didn't focus on the operational excellence. It was only when we focused on our mission and our craft and inviting other people to come in to help solve the problem we were trying to solve, which is giving access to capital for young faith-driven entrepreneurs in developing markets. It's only when we actually focused on the execution that the money came in. The money came in only when we had a broader group of people who were so bought in that those who wanted to invest money in us would spend time with others on our team or those we sought to serve and saw the mission and the passion and the fruits of our labor, and then they felt equipped to come in. You see, what we are doing, what we're trying to accomplish is so much bigger than ourselves. Everybody wants to be invited into something that is bigger than themselves. As we focus on scale and not just on the finances, We focus on articulating our why, understanding that we're a part of the bigger picture of what God is doing in the world, as we invite our employees, our partners, our vendors, our customers into that process. As we invite people, particularly if you're running a social enterprise, as we invite volunteers in on that process. We broaden the impact of what we do. We broaden the network of those that come into contact with what we have. And the money will follow. Aim first for how God is using you to fix what's going on in the world. Aim second for bringing the right people on your team. And you will find that if you do those things, the capital will follow. Incredible honor to be with you all here today, for me to be able to share a little bit about some of the mistakes I've made. Again, for too long, I thought capital was the sole thing that I needed in order to scale. And I missed the ability to invite a larger section of people in. And it was only when I knocked my head against the wall enough, thinking that it's got to be raising money, but instead focused on doing those three things that Kurt talked about, which is starting the mission, vision, resourcing, and bringing the right people on the bus, that the capital came. So I hope that's something practical for you to be able to bring back to your social enterprises. Please know again how much of an encouragement all of you are to me. We are all together getting out there, leaning into opportunities, solving injustices, addressing poverty, making this world a better place. I so desperately want to see you all succeed, for the benefit of the incredible country of Nigeria, for the impact that will make on Africa, and the inspiration and encouragement that will be for entrepreneurs around the world. Please do focus on bringing those folks onto your team that buy into that mission as you articulate what it looks like, tastes like, feels like to achieve that goal. Thank you all.